All right, let's jump right in. In this explainer, we're going to tackle one of the biggest questions on any parent or caregiver's mind. How do you understand your child's growth and development? It's a journey filled with so many changes, and our goal today is to give you a clear map to follow along.
You know, this is a question pediatricians hear every single day, and it's a fantastic one to ask. Why? Well, because it opens the door to understanding two very related, but also very different journeys your child is on.
Okay, so first things first, let's get our terms straight. On one hand, you have growth. This is all about the physical stuff, getting bigger, the numbers on the scale, the marks on the height chart. Then you have development. That's all about gaining new skills. You know, the amazing journey from babbling to talking, from rolling over to running. Now that we've got that, let's see what's on the docket.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the big picture of growth. Then we'll look at how doctors actually measure it. After that, we'll map out those key developmental milestones, talk about when you might want to raise a concern, and finally, we'll explore all the different things that shape this incredible process. Before we get bogged down in charts and percentiles, it's really helpful to understand that physical growth isn't chaotic. Nope, it actually follows some very basic fundamental rules.
And check this out. These 4 laws show us that growth is surprisingly predictable. For starters, it's a continuous, orderly process. And it follows a specific direction, from the head down and from the center of the body outwards. That's why a baby can control their head way before their legs. And the last point is key. While the sequence of growth is pretty much the same for everyone, the pace is absolutely unique to every single child.
So how do we actually keep tabs on this journey? Let's pop open the pediatrician's toolkit and look at the essential measurements they use at every checkup to make sure a child is on the right track.
Of course, it all starts with the basics: weight and length. And the changes in that first year are just astounding. I mean, a baby usually doubles their birth weight by 4 or 5 months and triples it by their first birthday. These are the foundational data points right here.
But listen, it's not just about getting bigger overall. Measuring head circumference is absolutely vital because it gives us a direct window into brain growth, which is just happening at light speed in those early years. Other things, like arm span, help doctors see if the body is growing proportionately. And this is kind of where the magic happens. This slide shows how those raw numbers get turned into really meaningful information. Pediatricians use formulas to see our child's measurements stack up against the expected values for their age. It's how they can spot potential issues like stunting, where a child's height might be falling behind.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. We've talked about physical growth, so now let's dive into those developmental milestones. You can think of these as the super exciting checkpoints on your child's journey to mastering all sorts of new skills.
I love this timeline. It gives you that perfect bird's eye view of how those big motor skills develop. You can see that clear logical progression, right? From sitting up to pulling up to stand to that wobbly but triumphant first walk, and then bam, running and even riding a tricycle. It's amazing. Now let's zoom in on that 1-year mark, because it really is a magical time. You start to see all these different streams of development coming together at once. You've got motor skills like walking with a little help, fine motor skills like that super precise pincer grasp to pick up a tiny piece of food, and of course, those very first meaningful words.
And then, between ages 2 and 3, boom, the complexity of these skills just explodes. A 2-year-old isn't just walking anymore, they're tackling stairs and building towers. A 3-year-old is coordinating the whole shebang of riding a tricycle and starting to engage socially with other kids, even if it's just playing side by side.
So, what happens when it feels like a child's journey might be a little off track? It's really important for us as caregivers to know what signs might suggest a delay in either their growth or their development. So, the clinical term you'll hear is developmental delay. And it's not just a gut feeling. It can actually be quantified using something called the developmental quotient, or DQ. As you can see here, it's basically a ratio of a child's developmental age compared to their actual age. It's a tool that helps professionals figure out if a delay is significant.
Now this chart shows some of those concrete red flag signs. But here's the thing, this is not meant to cause alarm. Please remember, every single child has their own unique pace. It's better to think of these as useful signals for when it might be a good idea to start a conversation with your pediatrician.
It's also really key to understand that not all delays look the same. They can show up in different ways. For instance, dissociation is when a child might be really advanced in one area but lagging in another. And in some rare cases, a child might actually lose a skill they used to have, which is called regression.
These are all just different patterns that professionals look for.
And just like with developmental delays, physical growth failure can have a whole bunch of different root causes. This chart shows just a few possibilities, from nutrition to hormones or genetics. It really highlights why getting a professional evaluation is so important to figure out what's actually going on.
So this brings us to a really crucial question. What causes all this variation between kids? Why do some grow faster or talk earlier than others? Well, it turns out there's a whole host of factors at play.
Just look at all the things that are involved here. A child's path is shaped by this incredible mix of influences. It starts with their genetic blueprint, right? Then you add in factors from their time in the womb, and then everything that happens after they're born, like nutrition. And all of that is wrapped up in their social and emotional world. It's a lot. And that brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway of this entire explainer. Seriously, a single measurement in time, just one dot on a growth chart, it tells you very little. What truly matters is the pattern over time, the trend, the unique curve of your child's journey.
Which leaves us with one final, and I think really empowering question. With all this clinical information and all these charts, what is your role as a parent or caregiver in all of this?
Look, your role is not to be a doctor. It's not to diagnose. Your role is to be the world's leading expert on your child. You see them every single day. You know their quirks, their strengths, their challenges, and by observing, supporting, and sharing what you know, you become the most important partner your pediatrician has in making sure your child is growing up healthy and happy.